What's up, y'all? This is PJ Morton, and you're checking out YouKnowIGotSoul.com. Hey, Tom, it's PJ Morton calling.
Hey, PJ, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for taking the time for the interview.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, man.
Just want to start out talking about your recent signing to, Young Money, and how that whole situation came about, and, how it feels.
Well, it feels amazing, man. It's good to be on a winning team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How it came about, it gets started a long time ago. Me and Mac Mang, who's the president of Young Money, went to high school together in New Orleans. And so the relationship started there. And I guess we kind of went separately and did our careers, as we've done. And a mutual friend of ours that went to school with us became a fan of my music and was working with Mac Mang. Mm-hmm. And kind of reintroduced him to me and my music. Mac Mang became a fan, and we started talking from there.
That's cool.
Here we are.
Nice. Yeah. I've always heard your name, amongst music fans more, on the underground of things, not known on so much a major scale. So do you feel like this signing is like kind of validation for you as an artist? Because, you got so much talent. You deserve to be heard. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think, initially when I started out, I went to every major label, like any other artist does, and they either didn't get me at all, or felt that I was too different, felt that it couldn't sell or something like that, or they wanted to change who I was. So, I chose the independent route at that point because I wanted to push it as pure as I could, and of course, finding a label as successful as Young Money has been these last few years to say we believe in you definitely gives a stamp of validation for sure.
Yeah.
And lets me know that I kind of was on the right path all along.
Okay, cool. And how did you know this was the right spot for you? Especially because a lot of people know Young Money for their hip hop. Do you feel like they're not going to really make you change what you do, and you can just be yourself there?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the misconception about Young Money overall. It's kind of an old school concept that they have over there, in the sense of, back in the day, people signed artists that they believed in, and they kind of let them do what they do because they already believed, opposed to trying to change who the artists were. Imagine a Berry Gordy trying to tell Stevie how to be Stevie. It just wouldn't have been the same thing. And I think as young in hip-hop as Young Money is, they bring that back to this industry. Drake is as is. Him and 40 were unknown guys. 40 was an unknown producer, but Young Money didn't come in and try to change that relationship and try to bring in big producers. Nicki Minaj, the same thing. Is she does what she wants to do. Wayne does what he wants to do. So I think they're bringing back that I don't care, that creative attitude back to the industry, and that let me know it was definitely the right place. I have full creative control over the music that I do, so I knew that it was the right spot for me.
Cool, that's a beautiful thing. Talk about the EP you're working on now, Following My First Mind. I just read you were working on that. What can we expect on there?
Yeah, it's going to be a special record. It's going to be some features, of course, from the YFCMB family. The same thing I've been doing as far as instrumentation, just growing it and stretching those creative boundaries. It's going to be a lot of hard beats on there with the melodic, string sections and me still playing piano and doing that type of thing. I'm excited about it, though, because I think it's going to be, especially after the Maroon 5 thing as well, it's like a mix of all the things that I've been involved in, and, it'll definitely be something different for the industry. Mm-hmm. And Following My First Mind, that title is kind of my mantra right now. It's like, as creative beings, I think we often hear something one way and second guess it for whatever reason, for how people are going to look at you, or finances that can stop you from doing it, how big you want to do it, etc. But I think we need to get back to that mantra of like doing exactly what we hear, because that's what makes us who we are. So that's definitely how I'm approaching the music this time around, as I always have, but just being more clear about that. Even in the new situation, knowing that, I'll follow my first mind on this music that I hear and do what feels good to me, and just pray that other people dig it,
Yeah. All right, cool. And talk about the single you have out, Built for Love, with Jasmine Sullivan. Just talk about that collaboration and how the song was created.
It was, old school song that I had that I felt was a true representation of a lot of relationships that I see going on, including stuff I've been through in my own relationships in life. And, it was that old school feel, and I definitely wanted somebody that on the song that was the real thing, And Jasmine reminds me of Aretha or a Gladys, who's not like neo soul. She's not a new soul type of thing. She's a continuation of those old school soul artists. And I didn't want anybody else but her on the song. And I reached out to her because we've been associates for some years now. And she was down. She wrote her verse and killed it, man. And I love how it came out. I wanted it to have a classic soul feel, and it's definitely what we accomplished on that.
Yeah. All right, cool. As a Grammy Award-winning writer and producer, can you just take me through your creative process when you go into making a song?
It's usually, I never get words alone. It's always words connected to some type of melody. And usually at the piano is like where I like to start. And usually mumbling some type of words with the melody. And I'm always focused on the chorus first, because I feel like the chorus is the hardest, yet the simplest part. I think a chorus should be simple because it should be something that people can sing along to, and kind of brings all the ideas of the verses and the bridge and every other part of the song to that one simple statement. So I really take a lot of time on the choruses usually. And then for me, verses usually come pretty natural, because now that I know what I'm talking about, it's like, telling a story usually comes pretty natural for me.
Yeah.
But the hook is the hardest thing for me.
Okay. In terms of your writing, I heard a few years back you linked up with Jermaine Dupri, and you had a chance to write for artists like Jagged Edge and Monica. What was that whole opportunity like?
It was great. I felt like me and JD were different creatively going into it. But then after spending time with him, it's like he became one of my mentors, because, I don't know any producer who works as hard as Jermaine does. And like his work ethic is just crazy, and he grinds like he doesn't have anything at all, like he's just starting out. And I just really learned a lot from him. And our process was basically, Jermaine does most of the drum stuff, and I was there doing the melodic stuff. I was playing keys and lyrics. On the Monica song, I actually did all the lyrics and music, and he did the beats around it. So it was actually more of a fit than I ever thought it would be going into it. And to this day, JD is a sounding board for me when I have questions and advice. He's just always ahead of the game, in his thinking with music, etc.
Yeah. All right, cool. You mentioned Maroon 5 earlier, and I know you had a chance to work with them as well. How did that whole situation come about, and what's it been like working with them?
Well, it came about. A friend of mine, Adam Blackstone, is a big music director in this industry, and he was coming in to be the music director for their next tour. And they were looking for another keyboardist / vocalist. And Adam reached out to me, and it kind of just made sense for me to do it, And I went out and met those guys, auditioned for them, and we just naturally fit. It was like I had known them for years.
Yeah.
And now it has been years. That was like 2 years ago already that I've been in the band, and so I'm still in the band. Actually, we're working on the next Maroon 5 record, and it's incredible. I mean, we've gotten to tour the world, and coming from the indie side, for me, it was just a total 360 in that sense. We're playing arenas and all these crazy parts of the world. And it gave me a dope perspective, just for me as an artist all around. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I like about that is I wasn't a kind of like a work-for-hire musician. I was in a band. I was still an artist. Because if I felt like I would have had to give up who I was as an artist, I probably wouldn't have been as much into it. But I think that's why it works, even still with me now doing a solo deal and still being a part of them. It works because I'm kind of still able to do my thing.
Yeah. Okay. Talk about what it was like growing up with your father, who was, a gospel legend. What type of impact did he have on you growing up and on your career?
Well, of course, musically, like, it was the first music that I knew, and the first singer that I really looked up to was my father, mm-hmm. His very musical household. I have to credit him for me wanting to get into it. He never forced me at all. Yeah. But it just looked like the fun thing to do. It looked like what my family enjoyed doing. So of course I wanted to be a part of it. And I think it only kind of brought a challenge when I decided that I didn't want to be a gospel artist. Mm-hmm. I think that's when there was kind of a challenge there. But I think once my parents and my father understood that it was just who I was and what I felt like my calling was, they became my number one supporters, in everything that I did since then. So, but it was great growing up with that. It was like a clinic, mm-hmm. in music. I got to kind of get ahead of the game because they were already in it and successful at it. Yeah.
All right, cool. One last question for you. Just wanted to get some background on a personal favorite song of yours, of mine, and that's Fly Away. Just tell me about that song and how it was created.
Yeah, that whole album, actually, Emotions, was I was on tour with Erykah Badu, and I had writer's block for the whole tour, and I was with her for about a year or so, and I couldn't write any songs. And then when the tour was done, I went home and I wrote Emotions like in 2 weeks. Like I was writing like 3 songs a day, I guess because I had been holding all that stuff in and just kind of living, so I could write. And Fly Away was one of those first songs that came to me. Real simple, really Stevie Wonder-esque, and it's always touched me. It's always been one of my favorites. Yeah. And the singer on there, Anisha, was one of my best friends and one of my favorite singers. And she came and she actually did that in one take. I remember flying her from New York to do the verse and thinking we were going to be in the studio all day. And the length of the song is how long it took her to do what she did. Wow. So it took us like, 3 minutes and she was done. And we just had all day to chill because I didn't expect her to be done that quick. But yeah, that whole experience, man, was just so pure and so new to me doing that first solo record. But it's definitely one of my favorites as well.
Cool. Good stuff.